No! Oh my god, this is really heavy. Someone is digging up the Bokashi stuff. And this can keep me from progressing with this project. So, what I'll be sewing today is... We are nearing the end of February, and it means that we're about a month or maybe a bit more than that away from getting started on planting some seeds. It's super exciting. I'm looking forward to it a lot, and I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. But also there's a few questions that are left unanswered for me, because up till now most of my time has been spent researching things, learning things, seeing what I can and cannot do. So I have my seeds, I have the materials to make planters outside. I started doing some composting that I can add to soil when that's ready. But there are a few questions that keep me busy, and I want to get those out of the way as much as I can before March. The first question is on how to come up with a patio layout. What's the smartest way to use the space? The second one is then how big to make the planters and what size boards do I need to cut. The last thing is which seeds do I need to sow right now in order to be in time for the growing season. So the first question was in patio layout. So I drew a rough shape of the patio on a piece of paper and started drawing different shapes of planters to see what would fit best. However, I didn't draw it to scale. So in the end, I ended up changing this design. And I also ran into the fact that the shape of the planter is also dictated by which plants I plant where. So I moved on to the planter design. All right, so in the beginning, I made a little, before I bought any seeds, I made a little overview of the seeds I wanted to plant. Yeah, a few of them I was able to find, a few of them I wasn't able to find, and I did order them, but it could take 3 to 6 weeks for them to arrive. So I'm not even sure if I'll be in time to sow them this year. So I've had to kind of replan this. So instead of doing it on paper, I've now used a page here on Notion to make a sowing plan. So in short, I made an overview of the seeds that I was intending to buy and sow. I then also added when they could be sown and what kind of conditions they need. For example, tomatoes, they like to climb up something and you have to support them. So I would put stuff like build a trellis or buy bamboo, something like that. So here I can basically see what can be planted when. And this is what I'm going to use to create the new layout for the garden. So I've come up with a new layout for the urban garden. And I think this is going to be the layout that I'm just going to try. It's just going to be trial and error, because trying to figure out what to plant where is a bit trickier than I thought. So going into this project, I read so many resources which told me that if you want to avoid using things like pesticides, you want to have a healthy co-planting scheme. So what co-planting essentially means is that you plant certain crops together, which then creates a mutual relationship. So for example, beans. If you plant beans, beans want to climb up something. And a handy crop to use for that is corn. So beans and corn can be grown together. I then also thought, great, well, tomatoes also want to climb up something. So what if I plant the beans, tomato, and corn in one planter? They can both climb up the corn, and I don't have to add any stakes. It can be as natural as possible. However, corn and tomato don't want to be in the same container because the pests that they can attract, they're similar pests. So if you put the same crop in the same container, the chance of getting a pest is really high. So it can be really easy to get lost in these details. And this can keep me from progressing with this project, which I want to avoid. So I've just decided, I've made a layout, I'm gonna stick to it, see what happens, trial and error. We can always learn and improve. The next step is gonna be making a few planters. Whenever I get these tools out, I'm still very nervous doing this. And it's always just such a daunting thing, but when I get going, it feels really good. I broke my little pre-drill thing. I must say, this is way harder than I thought it would be. I think I need to take a break and have some lunch. Because I'm at that point with the project where you're just, everything you do doesn't seem to go very well. Alright, it's the next week. Got a charged drill, a new drill bit. I figured out I was drilling with a concrete drill bit, so maybe that didn't help. I got one for wood now. Maybe that's not the right one either, but let's see what we can do. Alright, so I broke my brand new drill bit again. It took me about 3 hours. I'm guessing this means this is not the right drill bit to be using. Okay, this is an almost done first planter. Oh my god, this is really heavy. Oh my god. Yes. That looks really good. So in the end, it took me about 4 weeks and 5 of these drill bits to get the 4 planters finished. And because we were almost halfway through March and I didn't want to wait too long to bury the Bokashi in the soil, I made sure that I lined the planters with some agricultural fabric to then dump in some of these, I don't know what they're called, those tiny volcanic balls that keep the water from draining, then with some soil, and then in the end it was time to put the first batch of Bokashi in the soil. Alright, today is the 5th of March, which means the first batch of the Bokashi compost is ready to be put in soil outside. So here it is, a big bucket full of food scraps that I've kept over the last 2 months, I think. The idea is that this has been fermenting all of this time. Ever since I closed it for the last time on the 18th of February until now, it's been fermenting. So before we dunk this into the planters, I want to see how much I can still tap, how much fertilizer I can still tap from this. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna open this. I'm very curious to see what it smells like, because it didn't smell too bad. Ooh, I can already smell it. So this is what it looks like now. So it doesn't smell that bad. I don't think I'd have this around the house open like this, but it smells a bit like something that's been pickled, a bit sour, I'd say. I can still see all the food scraps, so the idea is when I add it to the soil, that over the next 2 weeks, it's gonna break down and it's gonna look less like food. Today is the day that I'm gonna sow some seeds. I have been collecting these egg cartons and milk cartons, which I've opened like that. I'm gonna use them to sow a few seedlings in today. And I'll be honest, I find this a bit nerve-wracking because I feel like room for error is bigger now that we're actually starting. And I'm having to remind myself that I shouldn't be so perfectionistic with this. These all say that it's the end of February now, that at the end of February, these can be sown indoors. So what I'll be sowing today is a French marigold flower, geranium flowers, and cherry tomatoes. Okay, the first seeds are in. Just gonna cover them. Can I just do that? Probably. How amazing that these will just grow into big, beautiful plants. There's proper holes in here. Oh my god. I can see some already popping out. I can't believe it.